or expanded on that first answer.
Just
that to practice and have nothing arising. We would like to have nothing coming up. It's unlikely. We should just see it as normal and to be expected that there will be stuff coming up in our practice, moods and emotions coming up. We're still new to practice. We're still in the process of studying and learning about these things. Firstly, from the pariyatti, from the scriptures, and then secondly, from our experience. So that means we have to start observing, becoming aware of the process of how things arise in the mind, how to see that this is behaviour or external behaviour or modes of behaviour that are stimulated by causes. There's always a cause there. The Buddha said, everything arises from a cause, and if you want that thing that is suffering or causing you suffering, stress, to end, then you have to go to the cause and study and practice and develop awareness around that cause. The place where it will end and be extinguished is right at the cause. So you have to develop your awareness and see what it is that stimulates you, that makes you angry or makes you have attachment, or we say love and hate. These moods, when they come out, however extreme they are, they're always sparked by something. You have to go to that something, what that cause is, and be aware of that and understand, this is what stirs it up. And then if you learn to keep detaching from that, separating off, distancing yourself from that cause, then gradually that fire, or the fire of the extreme emotional reactions we have, that will gradually be extinguished, because you're not putting any more fuel on it, so it will gradually less and less and less. You have to keep studying that, what stirs me up, where does it happen, how does it happen. When you get that clear in your mind, then you can avoid it happening again. You keep through awareness, you keep seeing what the process where it's arising and catching that. And Paul was just saying that today he went to the zoo, and it's really just a business. They're interested in pulling people in, so they pay the entrance fee, and then they can make money by displaying the animals. He said it reminded him of his early years when they first established Wat Nanachat in Thailand. And the Western monks went to live in the forest, and from the very first year you get trails of people going there just to look at the strange sight of these Western monks. And so everyone decided it was just like being in a zoo. We're all beings. The word sat in Thailand, it usually means animals, but it also means beings. So we're all beings living in the world, so whether you call them animals in the zoo or the people watching, they're all just beings. And Paul said, considering the animals in the zoo, they probably have a certain amount of hatred in them because they've been enclosed in those pens. However well they arrange them, they're still enclosed, so probably some of their moods, they have some certain amount of anger or frustration with that. And then it's also offset because they're getting free food regularly, so they're kind of probably balanced, and they probably swing between the happiness of the food and the anger of being in clothes like that. He said when he first went, the first time he travelled to Abhayagiri, he saw a bear there, a wild bear travelling through the forest of the monastery. And he remembers at that time Tanachalo wanted to try out Tudong in America, so he went with a tent, a small tent, backpacking. And at one point he had put his tent up and stored his bag inside the tent, and he'd gone off somewhere else, maybe on Vindapart or something. And he had candles, wax candles in his bag, And the smell of the wax candles was enough to attract a brown bear, so it came along and swiped the bag open while he wasn't there, and looking for food, but didn't get any food. There's usually animals, these bigger animals, they're not usually looking to harm humans or attack humans. They would only normally it only happens if there's a reason, like if they've been hurt or attacked first by a human, then they just go crazy. Particularly bears, they just go crazy and they'll fight to the death. He says when bears go foraging, they're very, very strong. One swipe they can knock down a person or break open a tree, and that's one of their favourite things when they look for honey. Wild bees tend to make their nest inside the hollows of trees, so to get at the honey that they want, they use their strength to break open the tree trunk or the hole, the hair, slash it open. But when they do that, they have to close their eyes because the bees will sting, and the bees can't get through their fur, it's so thick. The only place a bee can sting a bear is the eye, so he has to close his eyes while he's doing all this. So what some people who are very brave can do is, while the bear is, he breaks open this branch and he's getting honey out with his eyes closed and the bees are all floating around. You can go up behind it and tap on it looking for honey, and he'll think you're another bear and he's not able to see you because he's got his eyes closed, so he'll pass you some honey. This has happened before. Most people aren't brave enough to try that, but obviously someone has. And normally the bears, they walk in Thailand, they just walk through the forest looking for stuff. They won't bother you, they won't attack you unless you disturb them. And sometimes you can catch them walking on two legs, like a human standing up. Thailand, they have the two kinds, small one and a big one, and the bigger one they call the buffalo bear, mi kwai. Most of the animals, they're getting rarer and rarer in Thailand because the forest is disappearing, so there's nowhere for them to live. Paul just said that as humans evolve, particularly materially, we have all kinds of new technologies, new methods of doing things. But then the dangers to human beings tend to evolve with that. So for instance, I think this is brought on by that we visited this lady today who's just been diagnosed possibly with cancer. Saying like we've evolved, so in the ways we eat, the kinds of food we eat, what we eat has evolved in many ways over the years, over the centuries. But then the diseases and the harmful effects from the food we eat has also evolved. So a lot of modern disease is connected to foodstuffs and the effects of eating regularly, eating different kinds of food over time and affect the body, can give us diseases. One of these ways that evolution has affected, say, food is, in the old days there was very little storage of food. You ate pretty much what you can get. It was fresh and there was little storage, but over time now we developed ways of storing food, particularly using chemicals, preservatives, different chemicals to keep food fresher longer and to find ways to package it and store it for a long time so that it can be sold and move around and stuff. But the effect of that, eating food that has those extra chemicals, preservatives and things, and over time they go into the body and they almost certainly have an effect on our cellular system and so on. And because they're preserving stuff, a bit like preservatives used, chemicals used with corpses. they're going to have an effect on living cells as well. They're going to have a destructive effect, so they can lead to different diseases coming on in a very subtle way. If we study from the Vinaya, you can see that the Buddha was aware of some of these issues, where he made rules about food and medicines, 1-day medicines, 7-day medicines, lifetime medicines. He didn't make these rules sort of without real purpose, but some of the purpose is to do with this fact. It's for our protection and our good health of monks. Like, we don't store food. We receive food for 1 day and then let it go. By midday we have to let it go. That's a very practical thing. It helps you avoid some of these things like storing food, the problems that arise, health problems that can arise using stored food. As we know, food, say you're offered cooked food and you store it not for very long, it will start to go off, it goes rotten. You eat it again and you could get ill, very ill. Or even something very simple like rice, boiled rice that you're offered for a meal. If you store that long enough and maybe add 1 or 2 things, gradually it turns into alcohol. You can make rice alcohol out of stored rice. So our rules are actually protecting us in many ways, and partly just health-wise. They're helping us to contemplate the right way to use different foodstuffs and nutriments and medicines. So you have 1-day medicines, say, things that would go off overnight, like fruit juice. So 1-day medicine, if it's going to go off the next day, if it's fresh, it's squeezed orange juice or something, it can go off very quickly. Or cane sugar juice in Thailand, it goes off very, very quickly. Or 7-day medicines, those things will maybe go off a bit slower, but they gradually go off. Or then the medicines you can keep for a lifetime, tends to be sort of powders and herbs and things which can store longer without much danger. This is the Buddha wisdom penetrates all the aspects of the Vinaya and the Bhikkhu lifestyle. And you can see it in things like this. When he was young, he had one senior relative on his mother's side who was like a herbal doctor in the village. Lived to about over 90 years old. He had many herbal remedies, and in rural Thailand a lot of the herbal remedies use roots and different wood stems of plants and things, and you have to kind of rub them, grate them on a stone to make them into a powder form, and you can use the powder form of that root or the stem to cure things, give to people in different ways. And it's a very refined art how to get the stem or the root into powder. You need to get water onto the stone to get a bit of moisture there to help, but you shouldn't get any moisture onto the root, because that you have to keep it very dry and keep the powder dry so that you can keep it for a while, store it. So there's a whole art to that. So it's like his granddad. It wasn't his granddad. Great uncle taught him all that, the methods of doing that. He just made the comment that man lived to over 90 and he didn't really have any major illness. It's just the day he died, he got up in the morning and for the first time he heard him say, "Oh, today I'm not well." He said to everyone, "Oh, I'm not well today. You all look after your business, your chores, do your duties." And then within 2 hours he was dead. And he's just saying, in a sort of a way of praising, "Oh, this is a way to die. It's very simple. No fuss, no bother. Just now the time has come. The organs stop working. Time to die. Okay, and gone." This doctor, he could even use certain rocks, powder them to get various trace elements and metal elements that the body needs, or even different metal elements in different forms. He could get them and he would give them to people as medicine. And he had his own understanding, his own kind of laws. So like he'd say, with roots and tree stems, you only keep them a maximum of 3 years and use them as medicine over that period, but then you have to discard them and go and find the same thing, a fresh one. He had to have a lot of energy to study with this doctor. You'd follow him out into the forest to get different remedies, and you have to know the names of everything, what its use is. So you had to be quite studious and remember everything. So nowadays there's hardly anyone who's continued that line of medicine anywhere. Everyone does the modern methods. Every era is changing, and we've entered the era of chemicals. Everything has chemicals in it, added to it, mixed with it.
We observe the five precepts because the intoxicants have a certain effect on our minds and our bodies, and healthy food and all that sort of stuff has an effect. And modern technologies, how they've got those CDs and things that I was telling about. To what degree does Luang Por think, how much benefit could those kinds of things do? Because they mimic meditative states, the effects on the brain. So what degree?
And they can be used wisely as a way to focus the mind, concentrate, and make it peaceful. One can use sound, one can use visual images. All of this really comes under the title kasina. And kasina literally means that which one concentrates on or focuses the mind on. And so, one can adapt and vary that. There can be many different things.
Does Buddha encourage monks to listen this kind of tune, sound that make develop samadhi? It's a good idea to listen to those things.
The Buddha or Luang Por?
No, Buddha, in Buddha's time.
You can't remember it being mentioned anywhere in the suttas, but kind of by inference, the way the Buddha's taught, he's talked about nimittas, as in something that you focus on and concentrate on. In other ways, he's talked about that, so one could maybe apply it to this as well. There's different ways you can describe it. It's an element, and so any element or any rupa you can take as an object of concentration, focus on it. And from the Abhidhamma, it also talks about this, how these all become objects for vipassana or wisdom, like elements, and sota is one sound. And there's the sound of speech is saying, if we don't use sound at all, then we'll never hear the Dhamma. We have to use sound to communicate the Dhamma through speech, talking. So it's there, using sound, concentrating on it. It's there, part of the teaching.
I found that sometimes this water sound, river water, or in the morning like bird singing, the river and this kind of stuff makes sometimes peaceful if you really concentrate on it.
If one inclines one's mind towards parts of nature like that, then the phrase they use in Thai is yora. It means like your mind accepts. I guess that's, he said it can make you peaceful, and it's no different from studying any other part of nature. You study the body, concentrate on the body, these other things. if you think about it, the Buddha praised monks going off to live in secluded places, quiet places like forests, mountains and so on. So there's obviously a lot in that. If you go to those places, they're going to be quiet, you're going to hear these sounds, there'll be very little interference from human beings, their busyness and that. It'll be just natural sounds, natural sights. So that again in a sort of indirect way, that's saying, well, yeah, the Buddha encouraged this. And you can see it has an effect to relax the mind, relax the heart. Just like you see all the lay people, live in the city and there's always pressure and stress there, so much busyness, scattered energy, and then they love to go on weekends, they love to come out to the countryside, to places like this. You're just going out from the city into the trees, the mountains, it relaxes your sense system and your mind calms down a bit, which is exactly the same thing.